Just a few months ago, I told you a story of Cambodia's camp centers and the kind of torture which goes on inside them in broad daylight. In that story, I also mentioned another country's name, which also operates such centers. Today, there is a different story emerging from this country, and it is a criminal activity which has impacted China and Chinese nationals. The country in question is Myanmar. And this crime in question of scam centers is not new. But it is making waves again because China has executed several criminals from Myanmar linked to this very network. But how did cross-border justice come into play? The story did not happen overnight, but one incident in particular opened the floodgates of an expansive crackdown which brings us to this moment. What exactly happened and when? Let's start at the very beginning. This story takes us to Laukaing, a remote town at the Myanmar-China border. It was an open secret that in this impoverished region, a scam compound run by one of the mafia families was thriving. And it was notorious for the torture that went behind its walls. Another thing that was well known was that it was Chinese nationals who were locked up inside and forced to run telecom and online fraud operations. This compound is called the Crouching Tiger Villa. It is in October 2023 that an incident put the scanner on this particular center. Local reports say that on October 20th, 2023, a group of prisoners who were forced to work as cyber scammers made an attempt to escape the heavily guarded compound. As a result, several of them got killed by mafia security. And it is also said that there were several Chinese undercover officials among those casualties as well. There were definitely Chinese nationals there, but whether some of them were undercover or not remains a contested detail with no concrete evidence. That said, a single incident pushed matters over the edge for Chinese authorities who wanted accountability and justice. There are documented accounts of the few who managed to escape from the scam complex. And in one such account, a survivor recounted how those running the syndicate expected him and others to make 100 phone calls per day and to land 3 new victims of cyber scams every single day. In case he or someone else failed to meet this requirement, they were beaten. His accomplice, in fact, who also tried to escape, was beaten to death. The Crouching Tiger Villa is run by the Mings, an influential mafia family in Myanmar. The Mings are one of 4 main mafia families of the country. The others are the Bai family, the Wei family, and the Liu family. Together, over time, they came to be known as the 4 families in Myanmar. And their rise in cyber or telecom fraud can be traced back to almost 20 years ago in the early 2000s. But that does not mean that they did not exist before this. In fact, their oldest known trace goes back to the 1980s, when the syndicate thrived on opium and methamphetamine production. But as times changed and technology took center stage, the 4 families shifted their modus operandi to casinos and gradually to online fraud. These mafia families supposedly rose to prominence under the protection of Myanmar's military figures and junta leaders. Coming back to the present, where does China's retribution fit in all this? Well, the Chinese authorities decided to take some action. And the trigger point was not just the death of its nationals. China's civil population was also at the receiving end of these scams online as victims in cross-border criminal activity. From here began the process of China's strategic outreach to avenge this nexus. Beijing began backing the Myanmar National Democratic Alliance Army and its allies in the civil war against Myanmar's army. It is the MNDAA which captured the heads of the 4 families and their relatives who they then handed over to the Chinese police. Now, the rebel army here detained and gave the Chinese authorities close to 60 family members and associates of Myanmar's top mafia families. Beijing is now in the middle of a long legal process, and one by one, it is executing these mafia members and the associates. Just a few days ago, China executed 4 members of the Bai mafia family. There are 17 more of the same family who have also been convicted of fraud, homicide, injury, and other crimes by a court in the Guangdong province. Before this, last week, China executed 11 members of the Ming family mafia. Now, the whole saga of cross-border crime and punishment in this particular case is a riveting story, and it is still not over.